Today we'll be talking about the Samsung Gear S2, 3G, AT&T versus the LG Watch Urbane 2nd Edition LTE, also on AT&T. Now I've had both of these watches, the Samsung Gear S2 a little bit longer, and then when the LG Watch was re-released, I went ahead and picked it up. So what I'm going to do today is mainly talk about the pros and cons of each, and I'm going to really focus on using this watch as an addition to a tool for running. So the main reason I bought this watch is for a sports watch, something that I could take with me in standalone mode, leave my phone at home, be able to make an emergency phone call or text, and something that would reliably track my runs with GPS. And so if you'll join me here, I'll discuss each and the pros and cons. So let's start with the Gear S2. Alright. Here it is. As you can see, it's a little thicker than the non-3G version, but on the wrist it actually is not too bad, and it almost feels small compared to the LG watch. Okay. There's the Urbane. Some people say that the band seems stiff, but I personally prefer a good solid feel that it gives. Alright, we'll go ahead and fire both of these up. Alright, now obviously the Samsung Gear S2 runs the Tizen OS, which is Samsung's proprietary operating system, and the LG Urbane 2nd Edition runs Android Wear, which is Google's wearable software. As you can see, the Samsung Gear S2 boots up very fast. It's already completely done. And up in the top corner, you'll see a little icon that indicates that it is in standalone mode. So it says I'm on AT&T. I've got a 2-bar 4G signal. Alright, now that the LG is booted up, you can see that we have a little cloud which indicates that it is not connected to Google. If I pull down, you'll see I have a 2-bar signal. Where I live here, there is LTE, but it needs a 1900 megahertz LTE signal. So I've found that unless I'm in a major city, I do not get LTE on the watch, but I still get the HSPA 3G service just fine on both watches. Alright. So obviously, there's quite a difference between the two. All of them come with multiple watch faces. All of them are very customizable. You can make your own with software. As a watch, they both do a pretty good job. I've been torn back and forth trying to decide which watch I want to keep, because I do not want to keep both of them. There's, like I said, it's been a very tough decision because there's pros and cons to both. Overall, if I was not going to use one of these as a sports watch, I would probably pick the Samsung. Like you've seen probably in other videos, the rotating bezel, which I actually do not use that much, but because you can do everything just by pressing and swiping. A lot of people have complained about Samsung's S Voice. There was a learning curve for me with that compared to Google, which you can pretty much say anything to. But what I actually like better about Samsung S Voice is it gives you a voice response. So when you speak to the watch, it will read things back to you. kind of like Siri on an Apple product, or how Google would normally work on your phone. The problem with like Google Now on this watch here is that, and all Android Wear watches, is that it does not speak back to you. It will just show you your results on the screen. I think it's a limitation. I don't know why Google did that. Maybe in a future release they'll include, a voice response. It would seem that the specs on the watch would allow it to be much more powerful, and it's just in a very early stage of development right now. Android Wear is not nearly as polished as Samsung's operating system. Now, granted, a lot of people say that they don't like the Samsung product because it doesn't have that many apps available for it. But in my experience, it does everything you would need a wearable to do. The whole point of a wearable is not necessarily to take the place of a phone. It's to supplement and show you your notifications. And the Samsung does that very well. But, like I said, the whole point of this video is going to be about how it performs as a partner, as a companion device for running, especially in a standalone mode. The Gear S2 comes with 2 built-in apps that can do that. The first one is Nike Plus, which I've been using Nike Plus on my cell phone for years. I understand that there's a lot of other apps out there now, but it's just what I'm comfortable with, and it's always worked very well on my Android and iPhones. On this implementation, it is a very limited version of Nike Plus, and you can see it right here. You can click on it, and it loads. And basically, from within the app, you have a couple of options. You can play music, which is very limited. It pretty much just plays, and then you can skip forward and backwards, and it would only be a playlist that you have on your phone. You cannot play any kind of streaming music inside of Nike Plus. Also, I've tried to use Samsung's Milk Music app that's on the phone with Nike Plus, and they cannot both run at the same time. The Milk Music would run for a few seconds. As soon as I loaded Nike Plus, it would shut down Milk Music in the background. I don't know if it's they can't run in the background, or it's just a limitation of the operating system. With Google or Samsung's S Health app is another way to do a run with GPS tracking. How I found to do that was you have to go to the manual mode, click the arrow, and then select the type of activity you want to do, in my case running. Then you set, if you want to have a target of a certain number of calories or distance or time, or you can just do a basic workout with no target. You click start, it counts down, and then starts tracking your run. And it does use GPS and cell network triangulation to do this. So in theory, it should be pretty good. While you're running S Health, you can play music in the background. I honestly have not tried the Milk Music with S Health, but I was able just to use the built-in music player. Okay. Now on this watch, you have more options just because it's Google, but what I found, you can run Endomondo on here. Google Fit has a running portion. LG Health comes on here, its own built-in app. It has something you can use. But what I've found to be the most reliable is a combination. There's an app called Wear GPS that you download from the Android store. If I click on Wear GPS, what this does is it loads an app, and all it's doing is using the internal GPS from the watch to it's just running. And once it gets a lock, you'll see your latitude of launch come up, and it'll show you the satellites. And I usually give that a good 30 seconds before I run, let it get a lock. Then I get out of this program, go into an app called Ghost Racer, and then you'll see there's a GPS status at the top. So since your GPS is already warmed up, it'll get a lock. Now obviously I'm indoors, so it's actually doing pretty good with 3 bars. But it'll get a 4-bar lock across the top. And then we're ready to run. Now you can set your mode. Obviously you want it in standalone activity, running. Screen is ambient, what I put it on, which means the screen is always on but in a low mode. That way you can look down and see how far you've gone, your pace, whatever options you choose. And your optional sensors, you can turn on run cadence, a barometer within the watch, or the heart rate in the watch. Okay, I have on a track tested both of these with a known distance. What I've found is the LG Watch Urbane 2nd edition with running Ghost Racer and music in the background is completely accurate, within a 1/10 of a mile on a 3-mile run, which I would consider pretty acceptable. Another time I did it, it was dead on accurate. The Samsung Gear S2, I found that S-Health was almost a 1/4 of a mile off. It said that I had run almost a 1/4 mile less than I actually had. When I tried using Nike Plus, it was a little less, but it was almost a 1/4 of a mile out of a 3-mile run that it was off. So, unfortunately, and I've tried it multiple times, using just GPS and using GPS with wireless, this has proven to be unreliable for tracking with GPS. And it's a shame, because I really did like this watch, and I was hoping, it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Obviously, if the sole purpose of the watch was to be a running partner and the GPS was not accurate, then this is the loser. So overall, I chose this one. I chose the LG Urbane 2nd edition as my running partner because, like I said, it did a good job of keeping track of my exact distance. A few other things to note about the watches. Like I said, I have both of these activated on an AT&T. Obviously, the LG watch uses a nano SIM card, and the Samsung Gear S2 uses what's called an eSIM, which is a reusable built-in SIM card, which you cannot change. A lot of people are trying to tout this to be a good thing, but I personally don't care for it, because what's nice about this is I can take a T-Mobile SIM or another AT&T SIM, put it in the watch, and it's ready to go instantly. With this, not so much. I have to call, unactivate the service through AT&T. Then if I want to reactivate it again, I have to call, reactivate the service, and AT&T's customer service reps that I spoke to the first time I tried to activate this watch didn't even understand what an eSIM was and that it had one. And they sent me a nano SIM card for this in the mail. And then it took quite a bit of me explaining to them how their own technology works to get them to activate it right. So, that's AT&T, a customer service problem, but nonetheless, it just leads to a poor experience where in this watch, the door on the back actually comes off and you can replace the nano SIM card with any other nano SIM card. Now, I have not personally tried it with a T-Mobile SIM. Others said that when they first released this watch, it definitely was unlocked. Like I said, I haven't tried it since it's been re-released. I'm not sure if it's locked to AT&T or not. But at least the option is there that you can undo this. Alright, let's talk about battery life real quick also. I went for a run the other day. It was a 5K. And both of these were in standalone mode. running on like 4G HSPA network. I had one on one wrist, one on the other. When I was finished running, like I said, the Samsung watch was almost a quarter of a mile short on the distance, and I had used approximately 50% of the battery in a 5K run. That was about 28 minutes. So this used 50% of the total battery running the heart rate sensor, constant GPS, and the cell network. This one still had 75% of the battery left, so it only used 25% of the battery. And the LG does come with a much larger 570 milliamp battery versus the 300 or so milliamp battery in the Gear S2. A normal usage day with Bluetooth connected to my phone on the Gear S2 in automatic mode, which means it is not on the cell network unless you lose connectivity with your phone. I will definitely get a full day out of this. You might almost get 2 days in that mode, but I've never been comfortable enough to not charge it at night. So I would say you do get a solid day out of it in that mode. This watch also, I've got a solid day. The difference between Android Wear and Tizen is that in Android Wear, there's no option to have the cellular network be off unless you lose connectivity. It's either in automatic mode, which means it's technically on in the background, or it's off. You can completely turn off the cellular network on this and then just have it connected to Bluetooth. So that is one good thing about the Samsung, but I've found that the battery does last just as long in the Urbane with it in automatic with the cell network connected as the Gear S2 does with it basically turned off. So while in theory it would be better on here with the larger battery, it's kind of compensates. If you never gave your watch phone number to anyone and you say you used AT&T number sync, then this would never be an issue. But I personally do not like using number sync. I had a couple issues with when my phone would reconnect to a network, all of a sudden I would get a bunch of text messages that I had already received on my phone, on my watch. It doesn't seem like all the bugs are ironed out of that yet. So I just basically leave number sync off on both of these, and what I've noticed is that even when I am, as long as my phone is on, if I leave it at home and I go out on a run, I still get text messages forwarded to both of the watches through the applications that are on the phone, and these are actually remotely connected via the data network. As far as calls go, with the Samsung app, you can automatically forward your calls to the watch, so you would still get your phone calls to your cell phone number as well. I did not. There's no way through just the Android Wear app that I know of to do that with this, so you would have to use number sync for that. But anyone that I care to call me would also have my watch phone number, and they could call that. So I guess if you really wanted it to be a standalone device, the better battery life would definitely go to the LG Urbane 2nd edition. I pretty much could not make it 8 hours with this in completely standalone mode, not connected to my phone, constantly on the network in remote mode. I barely would make it 8 hours on the Gear S2, whereas I could make it all day in standalone mode on the LG, but it was just all day only. Alright, while we're talking about standalone mode, I had an issue. Like I said, I was comparing these two watches completely side by side, and I noticed it seemed that the Samsung had better cellular reception, even though it's only on the HSPA network. So I did a lot of comparisons, and I live in kind of a rural area, and the Samsung did seem to stay connected longer. I don't know if it's just because somehow it has a better antenna, or maybe since it's just one technology, it's a better use of an antenna. But the LG had slightly worse reception. If you're in a medium to large city, I don't think you would ever notice. And speaking of, as I mentioned before, the LG Watch Urbane does not have all bands for LTE for AT&T. So for example, where I live, 700 megahertz LTE is in use widely, and the watch does not have 700 megahertz LTE. So I'm rarely get LTE service where I live, unless I go into a large city. If I go into a large city, sometimes it will pick up the LTE, sometimes it won't. I thought there was something wrong with the watch, and I called and spoke to a technician at AT&T, and they said that the watch will constantly, like a phone, will compare networks, and if the HSPA network is stronger, then it will automatically jump onto that versus the LTE network, which to me, I mean, it was still a good LTE signal, so it kind of defeats the point of touting that this has LTE when it hardly ever will connect to it, because there's a stronger HSPA network. But then again, let's be realistic. Why do you even need LTE on a watch like this? Possibly in the future, if streaming capabilities come to the watch. But so far, in my experience, there's nothing that requires the fast data speed of LTE that you would do on here. So it's not really a hindrance. I would not pick this one over this one just because it has LTE, because, well, half the time this isn't even on LTE, and why do you even need LTE, I guess is the question. Real quick, just talk about the charging solutions. Now obviously Samsung has got this down to a science. I mean, there's nothing better than charging this. You just drop it on here, and there's a little magnet in there that grabs a hold of it, and it starts charging. Just that easy. So you just drop it in the charger, and then it rotates the screen to show you the time, and will also show you the percentage of charging. But I mean, it does not get any better than that, and you know it's charging because the red light comes on. So that's a really good solution by Samsung there. If LG would have had the wireless, or the wireless charging, it would just be hands down. Now LG's isn't bad. It's this little connector here, and it is also magnetic, but it uses pins, and it basically slides into position, and you have to make sure it's on there just right. But you'll know, because it will show, just like the gear, it will show the clock, and it will show the percentage of charging. So I have not had any problems with it. It's just not quite as slick as Samsung's solution. So overall, kind of just to wrap it up, I did pick the LG Urbane 2nd Edition to be my daily driver, based on the battery life and based on mainly the running. Like I said, I really, really wanted the Gear S2 to win. I'm a Samsung fan, and I'm really big on the Samsung ecosystem. I like everything about this. The operating system is much more polished. Even notifications from your watch, I've noticed, like I use Yahoo Mail on the Gear S2. I can read the whole message, but you can only mark it as read. You can't delete it. So the positive is I can read the whole message, but then I can only mark it as read. I can't delete it. Whereas on the Android Wear, you can only read a snippet of the message, what would appear on your phone's notification screen, but you can delete it or mark it as read, or there's an option to open it on your phone. I also noticed that I did not like Google's stock messaging solution on here. There's no keyboard at all on Android Wear, and there is a keyboard on Samsung Gear S2. So let's see if I go into a message. It will show you the message. You can click reply, and you have a list of options that you can choose from. Then you can add to those in your phone, or you can choose a voice reply, emoji, or a keyboard. And the standard keyboard that comes is a T9, like an old school keyboard, and it actually has really good word prediction. So that worked pretty well, believe it or not. It's just a little bit of a learning curve getting back to like the old school cell phone technology. Whereas on this watch here, in the stock trim, all you have is the voice option, or your pre-selected text, just like on the Gear S2. I did download an app called Wear Messenger, and what this does is allows you to have a keyboard. Then you can use voice, or it also gave me a keyboard. It also allowed, one thing that bothered me is that these both have speakers, obviously, and when this gets a notification, you can set it to make an audible sound. Both of them have different ringers. None of them are. You can customize the ringer, but you can't use your own ringtones. Only the ones that are built in. But on the Gear S2, when I'd get a text or an email, it would make a sound and vibrate on my wrist, which is helpful because I couldn't always feel the vibrate. On the Android Wear watch, it would only vibrate. There's no option to have it make a sound when you get a text message. With this third-party app, I was able to set it to where it does play a sound if I get a text message. I still don't have that option for the other notifications like emails, but at least with the text message from my phone, I'm able to have it play any sound that is a ringtone on my phone. So overall, like I said, the LG watch has grown on me. It is going to be my daily driver. Battery life, accurate GPS, but the Samsung Gear S2 is definitely a good watch, especially if you're not going to use it for an athletic purpose. It would probably be my choice. Shoot me a comment below if you have any questions, anything I didn't cover. I'm sure there's things that I will definitely think of after the fact. I've had both of these, like I said, for a couple of weeks now, but unfortunately I think the Gear S2 is going on eBay. Alright, shoot me a question if you have anything. Till next time, see you later.